Welcome to BreitWerks. What are you looking at? 1974 911S. Drivetrain stuff is all pretty much ready to go back in the car. But before we do that, we're gonna make sure that we replace the AC system. This one's kind of neat, right? So when you look at it, this is your high side, and it comes through the fender, right? So from the dryer, it comes through the fender. So instead of going under the car, they actually cut a hole in the fender. So we'll see. The hose set that we got might let us go under the car, but if not, the hole's already there, so we'll use it. While we were doing the drivetrain, this little guy went out and got the front pan basically replaced and recoated and painted. And then the rest of the car will get paint once we have it running and driving under its own power. But we're gonna go in here, pretty standard setup. 1, 2 kind of hold down bolts, and then we'll go inside the car and pull the resistor out so that this box will be freed up. And then we'll get that box out, see what the evaporator looked like, and put in a new one that is more R134 friendly. So we're gonna get on with that, and we'll keep you. So one of the things that I was talking about on this car in another video was that it has the underdash vents. So very, very cool option. Can't wait to see how it works. I have not had the opportunity of doing a retrofit with all of that vent, so I'm kind of excited about it. So yeah, we're just doing this little video while that guy down there soaks in some penetrant, because when you go to take that nut off, if it doesn't want to come off and it takes the stud with it, that stud's welded to the body, so you end up with like all kinds of problems trying to figure out how do you make that repair. So we'll let it sit with some penetrant on there, not hassle it too much. If you listen, the car will tell you what it wants. So slowly but surely we'll get there. But yeah, this is way cool. Same thing on the other side. So I'm excited to see what we can accomplish here. All right, I will definitely say that this was one of the more difficult evap boxes to remove. And Porsche had a sweet little trick up their sleeve. I hadn't seen this before, but it makes sense with that dash or under dash vent system. But your little capillary tube here that senses the temperature of the evap actually gets routed through the hose that goes to the vents. So as you're taking the evap box out, even though you've removed this guy is still kind of hung up on there. So we will certainly get that all cleaned up in advance of putting anything back. Plus, with this hose running through the body, it sits on top of the evap box also. So if you are going to attempt this on a early car that has an underdash system, a couple little tips there, things to look out for, clearance issues, because you don't want to break the box. The boxes are getting harder and harder to find, and they're not particularly easy to repair. So we're gonna get the box back to the workshop. The messy part, the part everybody wants to see, but then they want to make snide comments about. Anyway, we got the box apart, and I wouldn't say there was something living in there, but there was definitely, the good news is the drain tab is not broken off, and there's no cracks on the bottom box, so that's fantastic. The other good news is that the fan is not locked up. So what we will do is we'll hook that up to power, let it run a little bit, maybe put a little something on the bearings, but there's a good chance that thing still works. This is the old evap. This just goes straight to that big recycle bin in the sky. But, you know, as we look through it, pretty standard. Doesn't look like Porsche did anything too special. Bunch of junk on the bottom. That probably was occluding airflow, but then again, it may not have been there. Car hasn't really been used in 20 plus years. And then the top of the box, we'll scrape all that old gasket material off of there, but everything looked good up here. So still got his little feet and everything. So actually, very good foundation to start from. So we're going to get on with it and get all this stuff cleaned up, and then we'll do the reassembly. All right, we got our evap motor, fan motor up, and what we're going to do is test it. So I put some penetrant and cleaner and stuff in there, overnight. So we'll see how it works. Looking for it to spin and not do too much squeaking. So we're going to use our power probe. Wow, no squeaking. That thing works well. So we're going to stick with this fan motor, plus the way that we install the evap box. If it ever does have to be changed, it'll be a lot easier because you can just take the top of the box off. But we're going to call that healthy and keep moving on. So we checked the evap box fitment, and it fits perfect. I mean, the original cutout, we don't have to modify that at all, so that's going to be fantastic. And a little trick that I learned, instead of drilling a new hole for the thermostat probe, if you go in at an angle, you will pick up the third set. So I'm going to pull this top off and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. But it actually makes for a little bit easier of an install. So we pulled the top of the box off, and you can see that we're on the 1, 2, 3, right? So our probe will go in there. So it won't be sitting out on the outer edge. It won't even be sitting on the first row. It'll be sitting on the second row. So it'll get a pretty accurate temperature signal. But yeah, this thing cleaned up nicely. This is the serpentine. You can see it's a big wide tube as opposed to just the little tubes going back and forth. But we have had fantastic luck with these on the R134. So not just the hoses, you know, changing those to be able to handle R134, but the evap, this is really what I think is the key to making this whole thing work very, very well. You can use the same condensers if you fluid flush them, but this evap, definitely want to upgrade that. So very happy with this so far. We're going to get on with it and get this box closed or get some of the mods made, and then have it sitting on the shelf waiting for us to install it in the car. All right, there you have it, all done. We've drilled the mounting holes, right? And then one of the tricks, I'll give you 2 tricks that are not in the very, very comprehensive documentation that Griff sends along with every evap box. All right, so there's 2 tricks that I do. Number 1, once I've drilled the holes, I then start the screws just a couple of turns, because you need 4 screws. He sends 6. There's a reason he sends 6, because if you don't do this, and I learned this the hard way, you will drop a screw or 2 or 3, and once you drop that third one, now you got to take everything back out so you can get down in there and get it out. So if you start them just to the point where they don't protrude, but they got a couple turns in there, life gets a lot easier as you go to set this thing in the car. The other piece that is not in there, I put just a dab of JB Weld on the nuts that sit in the top of the box. And now the reason that I do that is because if we have to take this off, like let's say in a couple of years this motor gives up, so we have to take the top of the box off. Okay, no problem. The way that this is set up is very easy, right? To take these screws out and you can take the top of the box off. But if one of these nuts decides to fall out, because remember, these things probably snapped in back in 1974, but all that stuff is dead now. So a little bit of JB Weld. Otherwise, if one of those screws or one of those nuts drops down in here, you'll never get it out without taking the whole evaporator out again. So just by doing this, you save the potential that if you have to get in there to change the motor, you don't have to evacuate the system, right? You leave the evaporator in place, all you're doing is taking the top cover off. So just makes life easier in the future. If you don't do it, it's not the end of the universe. But remember, these two, right, have brackets that tie to the car. So you're gonna have loose nuts under there anyway. And you know, however you want to fight with it. JB Weld, I use it because I know it works, but you could do glue. You could probably use some gummy fledge or something like that too. But that's it. And we got this little guy wrapped up. Nice little side project here to be able to get ahead of the curve a little bit, so that once we get the car cleaned up on the rack, change the hoses, we'll have this already ready to go. All right, thanks for watching. You too can have nice AC in your air-cooled Porsche. Don't let people tell you that it can't be done. It can be done. Check us out at BreitWerks.com and have a fantastic day. Thanks for watching.